Got a couple of Democratic establishment moves that we wanted to bring to you. All right, first up, Jaime Harrison, who just dramatically lost in the South Carolina Senate race despite spending, $100 million? Like an insane amount of money. And went on to lose in impressive fashion, has been elevated to DNC chair, of course. Makes all the sense in the world. I mean, look, on the one hand, I think a lot of these factors that led to Democrats underperforming in Senate races across the country weren't unique to the specific candidates. I want to make that clear. Like, clearly across the country, the polls underestimated Republican support, punished Democrats, I think in part for standing in the way of another stimulus deal, including checks towards the end. I think there is this also desire among some to have like divided government. So I don't want to lay all the blame at Jaime Harrison's feet, but I do want to say over $100 million spent there. And then you radically underperform. Outside of the main race, I think he was one of the sort of like worst underperformers in the country. So, of course, that's exactly who you want to elevate to steer and direct the party for the future.
I do not understand this Democratic obsession with elevating losers. I mean, I'm not saying like personally losers, people who lose, like Jason Kander or, Ossoff, I guess is now a winner, but for a time, was a loser. Then who else was it? It was Stacey Abrams, Amy McGrath, and now Jaime Harrison. Jaime Harrison spent $100 million to lose at almost exactly the same marginal vote count as the one who previously ran against Lindsey Graham, who was a state senator who overall raised like $1 million. So he spent a factor of 100 in order to lose at the exact same level.
In order to make like no progress.
Well, what's the truth here, though? Which is number one is that he's like, big friends with James Clyburn, who talks about him all the time.
Yeah.
But I think number two is he's a magnet for money, which is that all these billionaires, these Silicon Valley people are enamored by him and probably donated it to his campaign. And I just can't understand why Biden would put somebody who is one of the biggest losers of all time out of the last Senate race at the top. He put as vice chair Gretchen Whitmer. Now, look, I'm not a huge fan of Gretchen Whitmer or anything, but she still won the gubernatorial election in a red state, or in a Trump state, which barely went. I mean, she has a very high approval rating in Michigan. Wouldn't you want somebody like that who's in charge? It goes back to this critique of like, what is this all about? I mean, this is just fundraising. Well, it's not actually about anything with regard to real politics.
Yes, true. No, the DNC, we should look at it for what it is, which is like a sort of consultant cartel.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. It's like an incumbent protection racket and a consultant cartel so that you can keep the money flowing to like this certain set of people and your friends and all of that. And so you make sure you put someone in place who's going to continue that direction of the party. Remember last time around, the one way President Obama was mostly sort of like absent and removed from day-to-day politics, the one place where he really intervened was to get his guy, Tom Perez, in as DNC chair.
Yes.
So anyway, that tells you a lot about who cares about this position and why. The other thing that I thought was interesting, not that surprising, Nancy Pelosi has now officially endorsed Terry McAuliffe for governor of Virginia. Now, a little bit of context here. So Terry McAuliffe was previously governor of Virginia. There's weird rules in Virginia. I know way too much about this, by the way.
Weird.
So you can only serve one term. There's a term limit in Virginia, one term. But if you are out of office, you can come back and run again. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's doing. He's been out for a term. Now he's coming back in. Of course, he's Clinton machine all the way through. Again, massive fundraiser, and Virginia has no fundraising limits, so you can raise as much as you want from whoever you want. Literally, it's like the Wild West in the state. And, he's a very reliable establishment figure. That primary is interesting, though. I'm kind of surprised that there are as many entrants into it as there are, because given that he is a prior governor, and he had pretty high approval ratings, by the way, in the state as well when he was governor, you would think he would just clear the field. But there's Justin Fairfax is in. There's a couple of former delegates and state senators who are in. Lee Carter, who's a Democratic socialist out in Loudoun County. Loudoun County, I'm pretty sure. In the exurbs here in Virginia, is also in this race. So it's a fairly divided field. And this one is always interesting to watch because Virginia and Jersey are the only two states that have these off-year elections where they're electing their governor the year after the presidential race. So it'll be kind of the first test, both in the primary and in the general election, of the overall sentiment of the country in the Biden era and how those things are playing out. Now, Virginia is not the swing state that it once was, so Democrats will have a huge edge here going into the fall, but the margin, can a Republican make it close? Who's got the energy in the primary? Those are all going to be really interesting things to watch as we move forward in the year.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting, as you say. Has Justin Fairfax recovered from his whole thing?
You think so, apparently?
I guess. Good luck, buddy. I think overall, it seems like McAuliffe has got that edge, especially he's probably going to have correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand, he bundled a ton of money for Biden. I mean, he was on a lot of those campaigns. I think we even covered here that one time he was caught on a private Zoom being like, we love having Biden in the basement, or something like that.
That's right. I forgot about that.
It was like a Zoom call from his campaign.
He was right, actually.
Yeah, he was right. Credit to Terry. Maybe he knows what he's doing. He's a money machine. We know that. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting lineup. If he does get knocked off, it would be a seismic event.
Oh, unbelievably so. Yeah, unbelievably so. So clearly, look, this is just a sign establishment circling the wagons to make sure that they get their guy back in place.
That's right.
Next week on Rising, we've got Hannah Trudeau. She's going to talk about why Joe Manchin is causing a rift already in the Democratic Party.
And great friends of the show, DC Bureau Chief of The Intercept, Ryan Grimm, host of the Bad Faith podcast, Brianna Joy Gray, and author Ryan Gerdusky. They're all going to be back. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos, and don't forget to like and share as well, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Have a great weekend, guys.